Hello, hello. I think we're live at 4 o'clock-ish, a little after on the 20th of June, or if not, then you're watching a recording of this. This session is about the Knit Your Town project, and will feature this wonderful thing behind me, and I'll show more of it later. And that's called Knitted Leads, and I was involved in beginning and doing stuff with that. None of the knitting, and you'll find out how that fits into the story of Knit Your Town. And I have got three guests. Unfortunately, one of them has a bit of a blank screen at the moment, and probably will do for the next 40 minutes. But let me introduce them. Sue Howell. Hello, Sue.
Hi.
Hi, Sue. Sue is the mastermind behind Knit Your Town project, and we'll hear how that got going and how I think there's been quite a few now, a few towns and cities and villages that have done knitted illustrated maps of their area, volunteers on the project. And Marina. Hello, Marina.
Hi there.
We can see Marina. She's in Leeds, and she was part of Knitted Leads behind me, one of the volunteer knitters. And Kelly. Hello, Kelly.
Hi, Nick.
Kelly is doing a radio. She actually did a radio interview on Radio Leeds about Knitted Leads, so that's what she'll be doing today for us. Unfortunately, the video link to her house in Leeds isn't working. So, without further ado, Sue, now tell us. I actually know the story, so I won't preempt it by saying it all happened when Sue moved to Wales, but take it up from there, Sue.
Well, I took early retirement and I moved to Wales, and I moved to this tiny, very small town. And I wanted to get to know people, and as part of a project, really, I suppose, for retirement, I wanted to get into something creative, which I'd never done before, because I'm an English teacher by trade. I thought, oh, well, we're surrounded by a load of sheep, so maybe I could do something with knitting. So I got a few knitters sort of interested, and we thought we'd do something, but we didn't know what. So we just started thinking, well, if we knit a base, let's see what happens. So we knitted a base, basically a blanket, of blues and greens, and then some said, oh, well, we'll put the river in, and then we'll put the road in, and then we'll put a few houses in, and it grew and grew and grew. It was really exciting. There weren't many of us. There was only about 8 people, and that sort of, I suppose, about 5 people knitted the most of it. And we kept on knitting, and after I sewed them together, I thought, this is too heavy, so we actually had to cut it back. So we ended up with this, which was really a picture. It was, if you stood across the other side of the village or the town, you looked at the whole of the town. You could see the whole town because it was on a slope, on a hill. So it was a bit like almost capturing a picture. And I was really, really, really pleased with it. We didn't know what we were doing. We just went with what we felt instinctively was right, and it worked. And I'm really pleased. And if you want, I'll just bring you over the very first one that we had. Was that was that map there, and then it went, we took it to the National Wool Museum in Drachfarth-Elindre, and a couple of people saw it and got inspired, and without my knowing it, Wolverhampton said, that's a really good idea, and they knitted it without telling me. And they just contacted me on Facebook, because I'd had a Facebook page for the Llandyssil map. And I thought, oh, this is really exciting. And then I was invited to go to Wonderwool in Boswells, and I took the Llandyssil map, and more people got more and more excited. So that's sort of how it grew. So I thought, well, let's see if we could get more and more people. Aha! Hello, Kelly.
Hello.
Let's
Sorry.
try and get more and more people knitting their towns, and that's sort of how it went. So I met what was it? Did I see it at Wonderwall, or was it the Southern Wool Show, Nick? I can't remember.
Well, that was after you'd done Knitted Newbury, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was, yes, it was. That's right. Because I moved then from Wales to, well, I live in Hampshire, but I live very close to Newbury. And I had contacts in Newbury and thought, Newbury's a lovely place, it's really historic. And maybe I could get a few knitters involved there. So I was very lucky to be supported by the National Needlework Archive at the Old Chapel Centre in Newbury, in Greenham. And I got 20 knitters together, and they all thought, brilliant idea. And we went with it, and we designed Newbury. It couldn't work like a map. It couldn't be like a photograph because it's an awkward shape. So it was a case of condensing it into the right size that was manageable. And then we picked out all the historic buildings, all the features that would be interesting to capture. And we worked on that for a year, and we had a big launch of that. And it's gone to various exhibitions. We were lucky, it went round to some of the quilting exhibitions in, can't remember exactly where they were, I think it was Manchester, Glasgow, a couple of places around there. And of course people have been seeing these couple of maps going around, and the ideas sort of been cooking with a few other people, and hence Leeds. And so I've got a few more that are ongoing. Some are completed, some are in working at the moment. In fact, where I live now in a village, we've just started ours during lockdown. So we have a lockdown project.
Yeah, Sue, have you got a picture or a jigsaw of Newbury?
Oh, I have. This is one of the things we did for Newbury. The lady who liked taking the photographs, she made these jigsaw puzzles, and I can't remember how many she sold, but I think she sold about 60 of them, and she's raised a huge amount of money for charity from selling these jigsaws, but they've been really popular. So when you've got your map, there's so much merchandise you can actually produce with it. You can do pencils. I've done a lot of postcards. I've sold probably 800 postcards of the Newbury and Llandyssil maps. So yeah, there's a lot of mileage in it, and cards and such like.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, Knitted Leeds, which is behind me, was inspired by seeing, well, Sue contacted me because I'm the main organiser of Southern Wool Show, which is in Newbury. She contacted me, it was quite a coincidence. Yeah. Said, can we bring that? I said, gosh, yes, saw the photo, and I was like, wow, this is great. And then 5 minutes later, I thought, oh, this would be great to have our show in Leeds, which is Spring into Wool. And this was probably May, June time, and so we had till April to do that. So if I bring in quickly our other two guests, and we'll talk a bit about Knitted Leeds. So I did a rough design of what it should be, and then did a lot of Facebooking and emailing and stuff to try and get volunteers. In the end, we got about almost 40 people involved in and around Leeds, not all of them doing the actual buildings, because there are over 315 little 4-inch squares behind each of these things, which is what Sue was the mastermind and the great help for us doing this. So we had to do that, didn't we, Kelly and Marina?
We did, yep.
Squares. The fun bit, wasn't it, doing the squares? No.
Oh.
So, Kelly, can you let us know which bits you did then on the map? And
yeah, so you split the map, didn't you, into a number of different areas. So we had 4 groups running. So I think Marina, you were part of the was it the Round A group initially it was called, yeah, and then it changed its name, didn't it?
Yeah.
I was the Central Leeds group, and then we had 2 outlying groups, one in Guiseley and one sort of Wakefield, South Leeds. So you split them up in that way, didn't you? So that we
yeah,
were all
because Leeds is such a map. I mean, Newbury, you could get like 8, 10, 12 people in a room each. Yeah. Leeds was more problematical because it's so much bigger. So yeah, I kind of roughly divided people into 4, and they were supposed to meet on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Some of them did, some of them didn't. As it was, there was a group in the north-eastish area of Leeds, the Roundy area, who met at Roundy Park and did the park, which I shall show you over here. Just a minute, let me put this in the speaker view. So if I'm speaking, you should, you're seeing Kelly for some reason. Why am I? Hello, hello. You should be seeing me. Just a minute. How can I force it to show me? In
the video.
In video. Oh yeah, that's clever. I don't know. Sorry, the lighting in here is not brilliant. So yeah, this section here is Roundy Park. Here's the mansion house, which is what Marina, one of the parts Marina did. There's a snowman, there's fireworks, there's tennis courts. The detail on here, the more you look at it and the closer you see these things, and it's the same for Knitted Newbury, and I guess for the other knitted maps, is amazing little details that people do. There's even a little crochet hook here, a ball of wool, representing people doing a knit and natter or a crochet and natter. Coffee, knitting needles.
And I think every time you look at it, you see something different. I certainly, with looking at the Newbury one, because obviously we don't see it face to face, but you can look at that. But also we found that we could be looking at it one Saturday when we met up and then see something completely different another time, because somebody had either done something more or you just not spotted it, because there's so much on there.
Yeah, Kelly, who was just talking, did this. It's Leeds Town Hall, which I think is brilliant, and it's where you were married, wasn't it, Kelly?
It is. So the clock on there says 3 o'clock, just so it matched. It was the time we got married. So yeah, it's just a little bit. And I did the dancing ladies at City Varieties, which I think your mum recognised straight away, didn't she, Nick? Which was lovely. So.
Yeah, my mum used to work there when she was much younger, when it was not quite in the Victorian era, I think in the 30s. So Kelly, if I just bring you in again, so tell us a little bit about, I mean, this all came from, just I have to unpin myself now, do I? Oh, sorry, shows how professional I am. Yeah, Kelly, talk us a little about how you would start something like the Leeds Town Hall.
So thankfully, Sue provided a lot of information for us, but basically we had a photo or got a picture of the town hall, and then we mapped it out onto graph paper. Now, I know different people did things differently, but I found that mapping it out onto graph paper, as Sue suggested, was really useful for getting your getting the sizing right. So really you have to work out how many stitches you get to a centimetre or to a square, and basically model it up and down on that. And what you have to do, and what we learned very quickly, is that you pare back your buildings, because if you try and put in all the detail, and so you probably agree with this, if you try and put in all the detail, it just gets far too fussy. So you pick out the main bits. So for example, the town hall has the tower. It has some fantastic black and gold doors on there, so we needed to get that. It has steps in front of it, so we did that. But what I did for the town hall was I did a rectangle to start with, and then I just built on top of it. So there's a little bit of knitting on there, there's some crochet, there's some felt, because you don't have to just use knitting. Whilst the main part of the project is wool and wool based, it's nice to add some little elements as well. So it really just build and build. And I'm not a knitter, I'm a crocheter, so if I can do the town hall, anybody can join in and do. And you learn skills as well, because you're meeting other people. We met obviously Marina, we met when we all get together, and you learn new skills. So if you don't know how to do, I don't know, knit and purl or whatever, then someone will show you, and that's the beauty of it, as well as actually meeting people from other parts of the city that you live in.
Yeah, Marina, did you what was your experience of doing it? Did you find it easy or hard? And you were doing something without a pattern, so how did you?
Well, I had a few dummy runs at it. So we met together as a group in North Leeds, and Sandra, who was our organiser, had done a size of the area we were covering and roughly what we were covering, and then she cut out shapes, real size shapes of what we needed to fill and what was to be in them. So I got the mansion house in the park and was given a piece of paper the size that it wasn't to exceed, and then I went home, sketched something out onto graph paper once I was happy with what I'd got and a rough idea of how I was going to knit it and the colours and the I think I did mine if that in 4-ply, is then I started knitting it and try and work out whether it was going to be the right size or not. So a bit like a swatch, really, a test square, to see if it was going to work out twice the size of the size I'd been given to knit it, or half the size, to try and get it the right sort of scale. None of the map is to scale, but the piece of paper I've been given, it needed to fit in that piece of paper. So that was the hardest thing, probably, was having a few starts to make sure that it was going to be roughly the right size for the space.
Great. So if I bring Sue back in, and let's talk through, we've done a kind of overview and a bit about how you do the things, but let's start off. If somebody is watching this and is inspired to do a Knit Your Town project, what is the, apart from contacting Sue, what's the first thing that you should practically do?
I think the first thing I did certainly was to take a screenshot, I don't know whether you can see that, from Google Maps, so you could actually see the shape. Now this is what I'm doing at the moment. I live in a village called Bramley, just outside Basingstoke, and I've taken this screenshot. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually outline the roads so I can see where the roads go. And then it's deciding what buildings you think you want to put in. Now, if you're doing somewhere like Newbury or somewhere like Leeds, you have got so many choices. I'm now working with a village, so it is looking at somewhere which is a lot smaller, so there aren't so many buildings to choose from. So we've, the group of knitters that I've got now, we decided which would be the most important houses. So we're working through the listed houses that we've got at the moment. So we're going to get those done. And then when we've got those on the base, just sort of show you, we have the base at the moment already sewn together. Once we've planned all the buildings here, then we will decide, we'll pin them on, then we'll decide what else we're going to do to fill them up. Because there's quite a lot of farmland here, I think there's going to be a lot of horses, there's going to be a lot of cows, a few sheep, there's a lot of trees around here. So the emphasis is going to be slightly different, say, as if you were doing Newbury or you were doing Leeds, which are a much more urban environment. So it is a case of working out what size the buildings are going to be, because the size that we've done our maps on, which are 7 foot by 5 foot, so that's 2 meters by 1.5 meters. Because I was told that that was the size that you would be expected to have for a quilt exhibition. That was sort of the manageable size. The problem with the Flandersill map was it was 8 by 10, which is really too big and too heavy. So you try and restrain the size, and then you can fit your buildings into the size that you've chosen. So you've got your frame. So if you've got 200 houses or 20 houses, you can sort of work out what size these are likely to be. I've got these are some of the new ones, because literally we started during lockdown. So the fact that we've already got the base knitted and sewn together shows how much work people have been putting in. I thought I'd like to show you what people are doing at the moment. They're all pinned onto paper and felt at the moment. So this is the first time these have been seen. This is the local pub. Now all these buildings here, which are more complicated, they're listed. I don't know whether you can see the windows. They're a special, they're called Bramley windows, and they're a particular design. So you actually needed to try and capture them if you could. And the lady who did this said the windows took probably twice as much of time as they did knitting the whole of the building.
Yeah. Sorry, Sue, can you just show that again? Now that isn't all knitted in one, is it? That's different bits knitted and then stitched and stitched on top?
No, it's all knit. The only thing she's stitched on is the bunting. No, that's all knitted as one.
Oh, it is. Oh, yes.
Yeah, it is.
That's very impressive, isn't it?
And it's lovely. Now the
I mean, for people who aren't such experts in knitting, who are more about knitting socks and jumpers, I mean, what technique? You're doing obviously multicoloured technique, but is there a particular technique you use?
Well, I mean, basically, as I think, was it Kelly who said, I can't remember, sorry, I can't remember which one of you said, but basically you're using rectangles, you're using squares, and then you're decreasing, so you're making sort of triangles, trapeziums. It's just decreasing. They're simple geometric shapes. Now, I know it looks a lot more complicated, but once you get into your head that that's all it is, then you suddenly find it becomes more easy. Now this time I decided just to get my ladies involved as a signature, really. I suggested that everybody knitted their house. So, because again, being a small village. So here's one lady's house. This was the first time she'd ever knitted a house. And when you look at it like that, you can see it's such a simple shape. You can either knit in the windows, or you could knit over them, or you could embroider them on. It's whatever suits you, really, whatever you find easiest. And also it depends on people's ability. But if you find it more difficult, there are simpler ways of doing it. You could just stitch the windows as if you were almost like drawing on them, rather than sort of knitting and embroidering those, which are really complicated.
So Sue, are the windows on the pub, are they actually embroidered on top of the knitting rather than knitted into the?
They have been embroidered on,
yeah,
because the style,
yeah,
it has to be. The windows are knitted, but you'd have to get that shape. I'll show you one other one, which is I'm really pleased with. This is the church. I don't know how well you can see that.
Wow, yeah.
If you look at the church here, if you look at can you see the stained glass window?
Mm-hmm.
Now obviously this, oops, sorry, I'm not very good at this. This bit around here has obviously been stitched, but she's chosen multicoloured wool in order to get the stained glass.
Yeah.
So they look more complicated than they are. There are things, I mean, like this tree obviously is added on, that's separate, that's been stitched on. And the gravestones, I mean, these are still a bit floppy because they're going to be put onto the base when we're ready. But I just wanted to show you what's been going on during this lockdown. So yes,
but it's quite nice, isn't it, not to have things flat. So I know when we talked and we were designing leads, you suggested we did some things 3D, so we could maybe fill some things out, some areas out. And I know certainly in the central leads one, there were a couple where there was padding in there just to make the turrets and things stand out. And it makes the map a lot more 3D and realistic. Yeah, you've got Royal Armouries there, haven't you? That's
yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but that's like coming out. The most 3D thing on here, which is an amazing replica of a Henry Moore. I don't know. You see that?
A reclining lady.
Yeah, which is coming out. I mean, it's completely 3D.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, that is wonderful, isn't it? We've got another statue down here, which is in Leeds, a strange horse statue, which is 3D. Various bits. Down here is, I don't know if you can see this again.
What is that, Nick?
Sorry?
What is that?
That's another statue in Leeds in front of a factory that used to do wool, and it's I think it's a sheep statue, is it?
I think it's a fountain.
Oh,
Sure. do that.
And we've got, there's little pigs, and can you see?
Oh yeah.
These are all 3D animals.
I mean that's and children love it. I don't know whether you've had many children look at yours. Certainly the ones that we've had when we had it up in the museum, and children came round. And one of my knitters actually did like a worksheet, so the children could actually find the different parts of the map that they might recognise, and they love the animals. So there's something in it for everybody. There's a bit of history. So there's something for children, and it's been really, really interesting.
I think as well, I don't know, sorry, I found that because I'm not a Leeds local, believe it or not, even with this accent, but I've lived in Leeds 20 odd years, but there were things I still found out and didn't know. And you look at the town completely differently. I don't know about yourself, Marina, but you look up. So I walk through the city centre now and think, oh, look at that. And I would never have seen it before. And it's purely because you're more aware of your surroundings and you're looking at the interesting things that are out there.
Apparently Dyson's clock is very famous, but most of us hadn't heard of it.
Luckily I did know about that one, but there are more clocks, and I can't remember the name now of the company, but there's a whole family in Leeds that were famous clockmakers, and they're in all of the arcades. So if you go into the Thornton Arcade and look up, there's clocks made by this one family. I think it's Webb. Helen will tell me off when I speak to her for not remembering, but and it's really interesting that you learn more about your city or your town.
So Marina, you did some of the factories. Let me just show.
Yeah.
I know when I first did the initial kind of sketch for it.
I confess that they asked me to knit Marshall Mills, and I thought, I've never heard of it. Better look up a picture, so I googled it and found out it was a very important flax mill. Can't remember all the other things that make it famous. Still there, of course, now, and that was luckily quite an easy shape to knit. It was just difficult again to work out the size when it came to the gauge knitting it, but just simple colour work with some sparkly wool for the windows.
Yeah, the thing I most learned about Leeds, which I didn't know, is sooty and sweep.
Yeah,
Guiseley, yeah.
And we have got sooty and sweep.
Oh,
yeah.
And they're proper. I did those. They're proper finger puppets.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, that's excellent.
So it's fun as well, isn't it? Because I mean, to make a finger puppet to put on a map.
Absolutely. But did you find that you went out to look at the buildings as you were knitting them?
Yeah.
Because I know one of the ones that are nearly finished at the moment, we've been commissioned to do a hanging for the Greenham Tower in Newbury, Greenham Common Tower. And it's divided into 3 sections. One is pre-1900, so sort of the history of the Greenham Common. And then there's the Cold War, because that's where the American Air Base was. And now we're doing a modern, how it is now. And we were having a get together at the tower, and 2 of the knitters actually went out onto the runway with some wool, examining which wool would be the best colour.
It's a bit excessive.
Exactly, it was a little bit, wasn't it? But also, didn't you find that having to get the right colours was quite difficult?
Yeah.
Because you're limited on what you can find.
Yeah. I think we're quite lucky in Leeds, sorry Marina, that we're quite lucky in Leeds because a lot of it's Yorkshire stone, so it's kind of a beigey colour.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
We can use 2 yarns together. I did that in Marshall Mill to get the ready brick.
Right.
Using sort of red colour brown, 2 yarns held together.
Yeah.
So that's also a choice. But yes, it's quite difficult as well to get the shade that you want to use.
Yeah, definitely. But you have to be quite inventive, don't you?
Definitely.
Yeah, I should say, for people who aren't knitters, we did sneak in some people doing crochet and even this. Oh no, that's knit. No,
it's knitted. Yeah, that was Charlotte's, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know the border is crochet.
Yeah.
My wife Natasha did that.
Well, there wasn't. Anne's husband helped sew a lot of the pieces on, and I don't think he's a knitter.
Oh no! In fact, we had a dedicated stitch on board Beverly. So she, yeah, there is a lot of stitching, isn't there, Sue? Once you've got it, well, and Kelly and Marina, we got together in Lee's. Probably it took 5 or 6 sessions of about 3 hours.
And all this time, people were making extra bits, weren't they? They were saying,
turning up with something else.
Stop! No more bits.
And there was a lot of rearranging to start with, like me saying, "Oh no, it should be a bit further over," and Kelly going, "No, put it a bit more down."
Yeah. It's not that exactly. You couldn't use it to travel.
Yes, it was. It came together, but it was. Yes, there was a lot of stitching involved.
I think as well, the nice thing is we had things that represented people from the city as well. So there's the golden post box for Nicola Adams, and I think the Brownlee brothers are on there as well. So we've got quite a lot of famous residents and sports people. So we've tried to represent people as well as the buildings. Because
yeah, that's it. I mean, I know when I did the first list of the buildings, I wanted to capture, as Sue said earlier, it's catching the history, but I think for Leeds also the modern buildings. So there's a lot of historical stuff, and that Leeds was a big wool place, so obviously that fits in. Some wool factories, wool museum. We've got Armley Mills on there, which is now a museum, and used to be the biggest wool factory in the world at one stage. But modern buildings as well, and sports places, and just a whole mixture of what makes a place what it is. So Sue, what else is involved then if people want to start? I mean, one of the biggest things obviously is getting volunteers to do it and getting a place for them to meet up.
It is. Well, this is, as I say, this has been a lockdown project for us.
Yeah.
So the 9 of us who are knitting, we haven't actually met together. So everybody's been, well, I've been preparing the patterns, to sort of look a little bit like that. I don't know whether you can see that.
Yeah.
So the simple patterns, and also I've been printing off photos of what it actually looked like. So I've been producing these patterns, and I've had what I call a little knitting station in my porch. So as I make the patterns, I put the patterns in my porch, and then I've been shielded, so I've been sort of pretty much isolated. So the people who weren't were coming down to my porch and picking out their patterns. So I've been making the size of the patterns, and then it's just, we've got a WhatsApp group and through emails, I'm sort of saying that this is the size it's got to be, and then people are sort of working out, what's best, and if anybody's got any problems or queries, or somebody's a bit stuck, they'll send out a message, and then somebody will get that problem sorted by whoever is able to drive around and sort of drop things off at people's front doors. So it's been a really, really interesting project, and we're desperate to get together now to be able to see what we've got, where we're going to put it, and then start working out what else we need, because we've got a lot of fillers to do, an awful lot. And the other thing we're going to do as well, I think we're going to have a little competition and ask people. We have a really good local village magazine, and so people start to feel a bit more involved. Ask if there's anybody would like to have their house included. So if people send in a picture of their house, and then I'll put it in a pot and just pull out a particular house and say, oh, well, you can have your house included, because we may have to. There will be space for extra houses, but we want to do it as fairly as we can. So it becomes a bit more involving the rest of the village, because obviously I've only got 9 knitters. So
can I ask you about your background, because that one looked like it was coloured that you held up before, that was blue and green, whereas we did the I think we just did a beige background of squares. So
yes.
Yeah. So that's the next stage, or the stage before we start adding buildings on, isn't it? The background, but that looks like you've coloured it this time.
With Newbury, we did it in sort of oatmeal colour, which I think was the same as what you did with Leeds.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of industrial, and you were going to cover it completely. But because this is quite rural here, we've got the top part, which is blue, and you see it in the bottom part, which is green. So obviously it's just going to represent the sky and the fields. So I just thought that was a bit more rural. Yes, we decided to do that. But I think it doesn't matter then if the base is showing through. It doesn't matter because it is rural. We've got loads and loads of fields. Yeah. You know, and obviously loads of blue sky a lot of the time. So that doesn't matter. But when you are doing a place like Leeds and Newbury, you know you're going to fill it up with houses. Therefore, you don't want the background to distract from from the images you've created. Yeah. So so that's, as I say, that's slightly different. But I did that one with Flandersill as well. We did green and blue and a little bit of brown. But when we were just using what we had in Wales. This time we bought it, and we've been very lucky. We've had a grant for the parish council for this particular map. So that's been really helpful. So we actually went out and bought some of the wool. So yes, that's been quite good fun. So yes, there's so many different ways of doing it. I mean, you could do a street. It doesn't have to be a whole village. Might be, if you lived in a really attractive street, you could just do a street. You could just do and again, it doesn't have to be 2 meters by 1.5 meters. If you wanted to, you could do a smaller one. It's just that I did these because we were going to have this exhibition at Wonderwall, which sadly was cancelled. So I'm still hopeful for Wonderwall for next year. Maybe we'll be able to get Leeds and we won't get Newbury together because Newbury's been taken by the museum. And of course, once you give up, you know, a piece of the museum, you've lost your rights to it. So I don't think we're going to be able to get.
So I just wanted to mention, we've only got a few minutes left, that once you have got it finished, you want to get people to see it and take it around. I mean, we had lots of plans this year to knitted Leeds at various places that were cancelled. It has been to a few places last year, and it was at Spring into Wool. And Marina, did you take it?
I took it to Pontefract Library. It had a trip out to Pontefract.
Yeah, did you get good feedback? I mean, is it interesting to talk about it?
Oh yeah, people were fascinated to look at it. They've seen pictures, but to see it close up and see all the detail, yes, they enjoyed it very much.
And I think,
are they making their map? Because they weren't they? They were planning it.
Pontefract, yes. Yeah. I haven't been in touch with them since. I don't know if how they've got along, but yes, they were very enthusiastic then to knit their own.
And Haworth are going to do it as well.
Oh yes.
For the Brontes. And they've contacted me a couple of months ago, and they were going to try and get that up and running. So it's still going on.
Yes.
Yeah, Kelly, did you enjoy taking it places? And
yeah, we took it. We had it in fabrication for about a month, 6 weeks, didn't we, in Leeds City Centre? So we did a rota there, and people were very interested. And I think that's where the ladies from Pontefract first saw it and got back in touch. We were due to go to the Knitting and Crochet Guild in Birmingham in March, but that one that got cancelled, obviously. But hopefully they'll pick that back up next year when we can do again. But yeah, I think the fabrication one, because it was a shop and it was that sort of shop that does a lot of independent retailers, there were the type of people that were coming in found it very interesting. And like you said, the children, they find it very interesting.
Absolutely. Well, Nick, can you hold on to Knitted Leeds for a bit? Don't give it away.
Yeah, I mean, the idea was to have it go in somewhere in Leeds, but I mean, nothing's open at the moment. Yeah, we were thinking maybe it could go in the Army Mills Museum, but yes, it was supposed to be at Wonderwall Wales this year, and if we hang on to it, then we'll take it there next year, hopefully, with the big exhibition that Sue's putting together.
Yeah, I think a couple of years, unless you really want to get rid of it, try and keep it for a couple of years, because there's still a lot of people out there that won't have seen it. I mean, I was longing to see your Knitted Leeds, and it wasn't going to happen. So I'm still hopeful. Hopeful.
Just say hello to Janet Collins, who's just messaged.
Oh, hi, Janet.
She's one of the top people at the Knitting and Crochet Guild,
Yes, and that's who we were going to Birmingham to see.
That's what she's saying. She's saying she was really looking forward to it. She really admires the skills, the craft skills, and the group cooperation. I mean, the fact that, I mean, it's difficult. Obviously now it's all virtual, but when people can get back together, people meet up with people that they'd never met before, and it's great. It's a community project. Just a minute. Yes, Janet's saying yes. We can't wait to have it real life back in Birmingham. Well, so yes, so do we, Janet. So great. Hopefully that's given you a flavour of what the Knit Your Town project is all about, and all the different elements about doing the base and doing the buildings and the landmarks and all the little interesting details that you put on there. I think the wonderful thing is that it is different than doing jumpers and socks and scarves. It's creative. People do all sorts of different angles, and they put their own like stamp on it. Some people do their own house, or do their own self-portrait, or do their own car, or do their own dog, or whatever. It's brilliant. Thanks so much to Sue for starting it and for talking to us today. Thank you, Sue.
Pleasure.
Been wonderful. And to Kelly and Marina, thank you very much for being part of Knitted Leads and for coming on
welcome
today and talking about it.
Thanks.
So thanks very much for watching, and if you get inspired, please leave a message on the Facebook page, or on the online wool show is a page all about Knit Your Town, and there's even a video made by a lady called Marina of the making of Knitted Newbury. And you can see more about the making of it there. And I think it's got Sue's contact details.
Yeah, I think so.
So
yeah.
that's on onlinewoolshow.com, and you'll find the information there. So thank you for watching. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.